Is breakfast the most important meal of the day?
No, it's not.
So a lot of people will come to trainers like you that have done things like Slimming World. I've done it before, it works for me. What's your sort of thoughts on that?
It's a business that's just there to keep you stationary. From losing my mum, she had a brain tumour. 1 minute she's healthy, next minute she's getting headaches, then she collapses, goes into hospital, gets told that it's not good news, and then within a week she's gone. I asked the question, how can this be prevented? And they just said, oh, well, it's just one of those things. And I was like, really? Like, you're the man that knows. So then I went away and started doing my own research and looking into things, buying books. Yeah, and I found out there is a lot of prevention out there. We do need to know more and we can live more optimal.
What would be the main things if you could go back to prevent it, as you said, based on what you've learned now? What would be the main things you would have said?
Food and your nutrition is information.
Okay, here we go. We are finally back. It has been a hot while since our last episode, and there's been an awful lot of change. I took a little bit of time away from this podcast, which has been up until now known as the Rich in Success podcast. Took that time away because I wanted to really think about what direction I want this to go in, how I can make sure that we're offering more value ultimately, and how we can make sure that we've really got clear branding and messaging. And so this is why there is now a rebirth for the Rich in Success podcast. It is now called Success School, because that is exactly what we're all about here. Success School is about teaching you all the things that are going to enable you to be successful in your life, in your relationships, in your health, your well-being, your business, your finances. Ultimately, Success School teaches you everything traditional education really didn't, but absolutely should have done. So welcome back. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here for this episode. Each week, we've got a variety of different guests. We've got people who are experts, really, in a variety of different fields, including mindset, psychology. We've got people who are experts in nutrition, fitness, health, experts in business, finances, and so much more. And the added bonus now with this kind of whole new format is that with every single one of the guests that we get on this podcast, you now have the opportunity to not only watch us record this live on Zoom, but you also have the opportunity to stay back after the recording so you can actually meet the guest. And with that, as I say, we're getting a variety of different experts who, to sit down, have consultations with and so on. A lot of them are not cheap for that one-to-one time, but this enables you to actually be there live on Zoom and ask your personal questions to these guests so that you can get their expert advice. If you want to join us every single month, be on these podcast lives and actually speak to our guests, all you've got to do is sign up for your free Success School membership. Click the link in the show notes to do that. That will take you to a completely free 14-day trial, which means you've got access to not only these podcasts, but so much more. There's a private WhatsApp group. There's over 50 training videos that take you through exercises around the science of success, understanding psychology, business, branding, sales, marketing, and so much more. And in addition to that, I also do a monthly group coaching session where you actually can come on Zoom again with me and the rest of the community and get some live coaching on there. It's completely free, as I say, for 2 weeks. And after the 2-week trial ends, if you're like, do you know what? I don't want to leave that. It's too good. There's too much value. I'm doing it as cheap as possible. If you want to stay a member, it is just 19, less than 20 quid per month that you can cancel at any time. So if you want to come and join us, click the link in the show notes, start your free trial now. And as I say, it's only 20 quid a month after that if you stay with us long term. So click the link in the show notes, come and join us, and I would love to welcome you into our community. Now, today's episode, we are joined by my cousin, the co-founder of Rich in Success right back in the day. But he's far more than just my cousin and ex-business partner. Dan Ramsden is an incredible health and well-being coach. In today's episode, we'll be discussing some of the myths that are around in the health and fitness industry. He's going to be busting some of those myths, and he's going to be giving you some of his top tips to help you live a happy, healthy, and truly fulfilling life. Enjoy.
Did you always know that you wanted to do something around fitness?
Yes, 100%. As you know, Matt, knowing, since you've been born, we've been in each other's lives, and you'll know that I'm not a sit down kind of guy, especially when we did Rich in Success when we first began. There's only so much sitting down that I can tolerate. Don't know, call it ADHD, who knows? I haven't been diagnosed, but there's something there anyway where I have to be more physical, and I'm more of a practical learner. So sitting down in classrooms and school was not great for me in terms of just sitting there all day. I always excelled at physical activities. So yeah, I did know that it was centered around that, but my passion was always rugby league. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a pro rugby player. Unfortunately, it didn't come off for me. A few bad decisions, bad injuries that led to a spiral of sort of just fading off, and then it didn't happen. But so I chose the next best thing, which is what I do. Wasn't always a plan of mine to do this. When I started to play rugby at a higher level, I really got into sports conditioning. So from that, I wanted to know more, I wanted to learn more. And then obviously, as some people know, not all may know this, but from losing my mum in 2006, it sent me on a bit of down the rabbit hole of health and wanting to know more answers as to how we get things like cancer and how we can keep it at arm's length, and how we can live more optimal and more healthy. And then that's been me ever since. So yeah.
If you're comfortable going there, would you just maybe tell a little bit about that story in terms of what happened to your mum and what the doctors said were the causes for her?
Yeah, so she had a short illness. She had a brain tumour, grade 4 cancerous tumour in her brain. So it was a really quick turnaround. We didn't really know what was going on. 1 minute she's healthy, next minute she's getting headaches, then she collapses, goes into hospital, gets told that it's not good news, and then within a week she's gone. So it was like a crazy spiral of, events where it was like you couldn't put your finger on what was going on. What was seemingly a healthy person, and then that taught me a lesson of how fragile life can be sometimes, and how the rug can be pulled from under your feet without you knowing it. So I asked the question, how can this be prevented? And they were like, how can what be prevented? Brain tumours. And like, yeah, cancer as such. And just said, oh, well, it's just one of those things. And I was like, really? Like, you're the man that knows, and you're telling me it's just one of those things? I thought, I'm not having that. So then I went away and started doing my own research and looking into things, buying books, really delving in. And I found out there is a lot of prevention out there, and we do need to know more, and we can live more optimal. And it's all about education, and we don't get it. We don't get it at school. Doctors don't get it. GPs have to have a passion for nutrition itself to learn it, because they don't get taught it in medical school. They get taught about medicine, not about nutrition, and it's the food that's making us sick. So yeah, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole there, and that's why I've become who I am, really.
15 years since your mum's passing, roughly. Is it 15 years?
It's 16 this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, in December, yeah.
With what you've just said there, what do you think? I know you sort of generalised and said it's the food making us sick. To be a little more specific, what would be the main things, if you could go back, to prevent it, as you said, based on what you've learned now? What would be the main things you would have said contributed? Stress,
probably number one. De-stress. Fix your internal environment, as in you, your emotional well-being in you, and your external environment, the people that you have around you, your sleep cycles. So that was one thing that my mum never had under control. She was a fire control operator, and she worked 15-hour night shifts. And I do remember growing up, and she used to come home from nights, and she used to get home at 9 a.m. in the morning while she'd been up all night, not gotten a wink of sleep. We know what that's like too, don't we? And then she'd just go crash on the beanbag in front of the fire and just chill. And I'm like, Mum, are you going to go to bed? And she's like, no, I'm all right. And then she'd be up and cleaning and stuff. So she never really rested properly. And she was always quite, on reflection now when I look at it, quite an anxious person, you know, always up doing something, always busy, always distracting herself. Do you know what I mean? When I reflect on her behaviour, so that's a telltale sign that she's not happy internally. There's something going on, but there's a stigma attached to mental health, isn't there? And there used to be back then anyway. Nobody really spoke about the feelings as much as we do now, which is great. So yeah, I would say stress is a real big one, because you can eat all the right things and get the right rest, but if your internal environment is not right, that's just going to open the floodgates to, you know, things taking hold of you, and it changes your whole physiology. If you think about it, if you were to sit there and close your eyes and think about something that really pissed you off, your heart rate would increase, or you could think about something else that made you feel really happy, and again, you can flip it on its head. So what's going on in here is absolutely massive. So yeah, out of it all, I'd say stress more than anything.
And you said there about lack of sleep as well, which then makes me go on to think, what was she doing to then stay up? She had a really important job, right? People's lives depended on her work when she's working in the fire service. So then excessive amounts of caffeine, you know,
Yeah.
and energy drinks and sweets, and then you've got a stressful job, and I know there was alcohol involved. Do you think that was part of the concoction as well?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, alcohol, we know all about that. We know it's not good for us. We still do it. I still do it too. You know, I'm not preaching. I'm not teetotal. I do drink in moderation. I do enjoy a drink, but I don't use it as a therapy tool. I don't use it as I've had a bad day, so I'm going to have a drink, you know, all those sorts of things. I celebrate with it, and I do it when I fancy it to chill me out or whatever, but nothing like that. So having a good relationship with things like that. But yeah, all those things, we know that we shouldn't be doing them, and they are going to contribute to some sort of ill health at some point, but we can't keep ignoring it. And going back, this is one of the points that I wanted to make about being intuitive with your own body. So food and your nutrition is information. So if you've got a pen, if anyone's listening to this and you want to take some notes, just mark this down. Food is information. So what that's doing for you is it's providing your body with data. So when you do something, when you have something within your diet, whether it be, you know, something that is labelled as not so good, like alcohol, or we're not getting enough sleep, or we're having too much sodium, or whatever it is, it's going to provide you with some data. So then you've got, you know, your oral health, your skin health, your mood, your libido, your sleep cycles, your energy throughout the day, cognitive function, the toilet bowl, your urine, everything. Like, your body's talking to you all the time, 24/7, never stops. And it's a beautiful thing. Like, it's such a clever thing, and we take it for granted. And we've got to listen to the signs that are coming up and presenting itself. You know, sometimes if someone's getting a rash on their skin, they'll be like, "Oh, I'll just put some cream on it. I'll go to the doctors and I'll get some cream," you know. And it's like, you're not listening. Your body's talking to you. You're not listening to it, you know. And then it becomes more sinister the more that we push it to the back. So all these things it's something that we need to be intuitive with ourselves. And the body's talking to us all the time. Your body composition. How do you look? Are you happy with how you look? If not, okay. Your body's talking to you. If you're carrying excess weight, where is it? How could it be stored there? You know, it's all those things. So
Just made me think immediately about that kind of phrase of prevention before the cure. So when you see the signs of something, rather than just going to medication or creams or ointments, go to, hang on, why has this happened? What caused it? What created it? And let's look to stop that, rather than just like masking the problem with the creams. Is that the kind of thing that you're getting at there?
Exactly that. Exactly that. And always remember, like I said previously, doctors and GPs, as fantastic as they are, they're overrunning the NHS, but they're doing their best. But they're not educated on nutrition. The younger ones coming through maybe now, but the old school doctors didn't get any of this information in medical school, so they're only there to treat your symptoms, not the cause. So they're going to put the creams on top, and it will get rid of the symptom. Like if you're getting, acid reflux or whatever, take some Gaviscon. It's going to sort, that ain't going to neutralize you. It's what's causing it to bubble and manifest. So yeah, like I said, if you've got a pen taking notes, just think about your skin, your hair, your mood, your libido, your sleep, your energy, cognitive function, your training performance. If you do train, is it improving? Are you getting stronger? Your body composition, are you getting leaner? All those sorts of things. Bloating, all those things, it's all data points and all reference points for you to know, well, actually, I thought I was having a healthy diet, but I am getting some negative symptoms. Well, your levels might be out. You might be getting too much of something or not enough of another, as an example.
At that point then, so what you sort of said there is doctors are going to give you the medicine, the tablets, the creams. But if you're starting to go, okay, I don't just want to solely go down that route of getting the cure, I want to go to the prevention. Where would you go? Where do you look? What do you think is the best, port of call at that stage?
It's really hard to say, depending on what those symptoms would be. You can take some like basic allergens out. So your key players, for example, would be wheat, gluten, dairy. They're big players that can cause irritation in the gut. Yeast, things like that. Then you've got all your artificial flavorings and things that are not natural, basically. There's a saying that I've got: if you can't kill it or pick it, then it's probably not for you. And if you're predominantly filling the foundation of your nutrition with those things, you're not going to go too far wrong. But if you go to the supermarket and you're just going to shop straight down the centre aisles and you're going to go for tins and packets and those sorts of products, then there's not going to be enough nutrition in your daily diet. And then that's when things can start to, again, like I say, manifest in your body. So I'd say take the basic allergens out, keep your alcohol down, artificial sweeteners. They're not as unhealthy as people may have deemed them to be a few years ago. It got a real bad press, did artificial sweeteners a few years ago, but they're not as harmful as you think, because it's all about dosage. We can come onto that as well if you want, Matt, in a bit. So yeah, take your basic allergens out. So wheat, gluten, dairy, they're big players.
Brilliant. So going back to you and your story, obviously you became a coach. And as a lot of us on here know, that whole leap into becoming self-employed, becoming your own business and so on can be super scary. And it can leave us with a lot of self-doubt and confusion about what the best path is. Was there ever any time in your sort of history of being a coach where you doubted it and thought about getting a proper job?
A few times. But that was down to me as well. It was like I was complaining about what was going on within my business, but I was in control of the business, and I didn't have boundaries. So I was working for my business and for the people, but it wasn't working for me. So I'm a very people pleaser kind of guy, and I left myself out to dry, saying yes too many times to people, being the nice guy, and it wasn't working for me. And then that's then when you can start falling out of love with it. I've got very clear boundaries now. I work with who I want to work with, so I do a bit of a consultation, obviously, when I'm meeting somebody, but throughout that consultation, I'm actually trying to figure out, can I help this person? Are we going to be compatible? Is it compatible energy? We're not all going to get on. You can't help everybody. So I'll only do it based on me thinking, yeah, I can work with this person. I know I can, So yeah, it's things like that. And I didn't do that before, and now I do. So I've got the love back for it. I've got the passion back for it. I work less hours for more money. And then I get a lot of satisfaction from that because I'm working with who I want to work with. But have I felt that way in the past? Yes, absolutely. A few times.
Okay, let's get down to business. We've got 18 potential myths that we're potentially going to bust. So we're going to start with number one. The first one is breakfast the most important meal of the day?
No, it's not. Do you want context?
Yeah. Everyone's like, ooh, I need to know more, Dan.
So, yeah, it's just, I mean, that's quite an old one. That's probably like a 90s one, is that?
But people still think it, right? I had a conversation with someone in the gym last week. They were like adamant, because I fast most mornings. So I don't eat anything till like 12, 1 o'clock. And I sometimes get up 5 a.m. And they were like, that's ridiculous. And you can't train on that. And I was like, I've been doing it for years. I'm here. I'm training. And they were absolutely adamant that scientifically, biologically, it's the worst thing I can do for my body.
It depends, again, on your overall calorie intake. Breakfast could be a really important meal to some people. I certainly do need my breakfast now. Fasting wouldn't work for me. I can't eat enough calories throughout the day if I were fasting. And for some people it would work, and for some people it wouldn't. So let's give you an example. If it was a workman, a bricklayer, labourer. So they're out on site and they're moving around from 7 a.m. and they're lifting wheelbarrows up and down, and they're climbing ladders, and they're moving cement mixes and all this sort of stuff all day long. And then they go train, and then they might play sport as well. That person will not be able to do something like that in a fasted state. There just ain't going to be enough hours in the day for them to get enough calories. So breakfast to those people would be really important. So it depends who we're talking to. Some people that sit on that side of the fence would say you definitely need breakfast because I know my body, and yeah, they're probably right. Do you know what I mean? But if you've got a sedentary activity, which a hell of a lot of people do these days, then is breakfast important? No. Is it important if you train in the morning? Yes. You need post-workout nutrition, in my opinion, because your blood sugar levels will start to deplete and your training sessions won't be as productive if they're frequent. Yeah.
Just a question on that, because, and you might not know the answer, because I think the main thing I'm taking away from that is there's no one size fits all. So it might work for you, but then stop. I think it's important that we don't just then push that on other people and say, work for me. And that's what that person was doing. He was like absolutely adamant it's wrong. I've actually spoke to a few people, and
those people, can I just cut you off? Those people
sure.
are dangerous. They're the dangerous people. The ones that are so strong and adamant. It's like, no. There's a massive, massive picture of this. And you need to get off your high horse, because they're the ones that put fear in people. They're the ones that create anxiety around nutrition and health. And it takes up a lot of headspace. It takes up a massive amount of headspace, in fact, for a lot of people. And it did for me for a lot of years too. So those people that are adamant about a certain belief system, they believe in it like they do religion. They're so strong in their views. You need to be careful of those people, because you need to see the bigger picture. So Yeah.
For me, I've experimented for years, and one of the things that I've found, it doesn't matter if I eat high carbs, high fats, high protein, whatever. After I eat food, I have a little bit of a kind of drop in energy. And I've tried all different times of eating, different times of training. But what I've settled on, and I'm really happy with this now, is if I eat nothing and just drink water, have a little bit of caffeine before I work out, cognitively, I feel the most focused, the most alert, the most sharp, and generally, I train so much better. Even if I've just had a small meal, I don't seem to train as well. Have you any ideas why that might be?
Because you're sedentary a lot of the time, so you don't move as much. Like, how many hours have you been in the office today?
Easily 10, easily. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've done my 12,000 steps, I think it is by now, by going morning walk. I do an hour, lunch, I had a bit of a walk. Just before this, I had a walk. So I'm conscious of doing that, and I train. But there's way more hours I'm either sat traveling or sat at a desk, way more.
Yeah. Why would that happen? Whenever we eat something, it's gonna raise our insulin levels. So depending on the type of meal that you've had, you might be just getting too much of an insulin spike. So I would definitely still keep playing around with those different types of meals, because you might not have found the one that's working for you. You've got to make your meals work for you. I'll give you an example. If I were to have my sort of standard porridge breakfast, yeah, because I eat quite a lot of food, and if I were to have 100 grams of oats, with all the, everything in that I put in, my berries, sometimes I put nut butter in, protein powder, everything. There's all sorts going in there. And if I was to eat that and then go and sit at my desk and then start typing an email, I'm going to be banging yawns out within about 10 minutes. And my brain's gone to absolute mush. Yeah.
That's because you're rubbish at sending emails. You can't.
That's just me in general, actually. That's where I spend most of my time. That's why I didn't like school. But yeah, that's what would happen to me. So that meal, I know for sure that doesn't work for me. So I select certain days on when I'm going to put certain things in. So nutrient timing is a big one. The foundation of it all is calories and energy balance. And then, the types of nutrients that you're eating. Yeah, you've got to eat nutritious food. But then we move up into understanding macronutrients. How many grams of this are you getting and how many grams of that are you getting? But then we go into nutrient timing, the next one on the list. So nutrient timing can make a hell of a difference. Again, going back to my porridge analogy, if I eat oats at the wrong time, it's not going to be good for me. When we did the world record, what did we eat?
I ate absolutely nothing for about 18 hours, and then we had chicken and veg. That was it. Was that right? I remember having half a chicken and like some broccoli, I think.
We had really low carbs, didn't we?
Yeah.
Right, because I knew what it would do to us.
So it was that thing of we'd start spiking and dropping and spiking
and then we'd drop. When you put that big meal in, when you've had a sedentary activity, what happens after Christmas dinner? Granddad's asleep in chair. Well, my dad's asleep in chair most of the time anyway, but that's how we feel. We feel full and we're like, and you've got to make your meals work for you if you want to show up well. So I have a high protein and fat breakfast. If I'm sat at my laptop now, you'd be proud of me, Matt. I'm all over it now. I'm tech.
What, you mean you can actually turn a laptop on? Is that what you
can turn a laptop on and I could join this Zoom call. That's a massive feat.
That was my biggest fear of tonight, that you'd actually make it. So generally then what I'm hearing is the rule is if you're more sedentary, generally meals higher in proteins and fats are going to keep you fuller for longer, and they're going to stop you having these spikes where you go up and down. Is that right? Yeah,
because we relate food to energy as well. So if you don't feel energized, sometimes you feel like you need more food, and hydration's a big one too. What I would always recommend anybody do is drink about 1 liter of water before you do anything, any caffeine, any meal. get about a litre of fluid in you first and listen to the body. Like, do I actually feel hungry? Am I ready right now? You know, go for a walk, do some activity first. You know, leave it. You're not starving. Even if your belly's rumbling, it's doing some work for you. It's starting to process things and get rid of the ugly things that are in there. So, you know, trying these different things will definitely help. You know, a lot of people have tried fasting now. I'm an advocate, but it doesn't work for me. I'll throw in 24-hour fasts sometimes, but I won't do intermittent fasting as a general rule to live my lifestyle because I don't get enough calories that way.
And let's just be clear, Dan probably does 10,000 steps before 8 o'clock, like easily, as in 8 a.m. So we're talking like he's not like a normal human for the sort of level of activity, energy that he's expending. So what Dan's saying is he needs those calories and he needs to get as many calories in within reason throughout the hours he's awake. That's right, isn't it?
Correct, yeah.
All right, what we're going to do, it's completely my fault. I could talk to you for hours, as you know, and I'm always wanting to get all the nuggets. So let's do our best to be disciplined. We've got 17 more of these myths. Let's power through them super quick because I want to try and make as much time available for everybody to ask their personal questions. So question number 2, are fats good for you?
Yeah, some. Avocados, seeds. Be careful with seeds, don't have too much because they don't fully digest. You don't totally optimize all of them. Nuts, oils, olive oil, room temperature, certain cheeses, olives, oily fish. But again, spare oily fish, don't have too much of it. Don't think, oh yeah, I'll pick up on that and I need to eat fish every day because the sea's not what it used to be. So don't get too carried away with that. If you struggle to get fats in your diet that consists of any of those foods that I mentioned, then I would look at supplement omega-3, or some oils, some essential oils in your diet, and that should suffice. But anything other than that, you know, other forms of fat, keep them on the D-low because they're high in calories too. It's 9 calories per gram. So if you don't keep an eye on it, then you got to be careful.
Right, and the caveat to probably a lot of these answers, and definitely this one, is it's in the dosage, right? Like nothing's healthy if you have too much of it.
Everything, every single thing.
So it's not just a case of going, oh, Dan said avocado and nuts is healthy. Let's just bang this in all day. Dosage, be mindful, right?
Understand the volume of it. One avocado is about 300 calories and they don't fill you that much. So just put it in a context.
Number 3, are sweeteners bad for you?
Potentially. If you have too much, again, like we say. So if we go to something like aspartame, that got a hell of a lot of bad rap, bad press. About 10, 15 years ago, you would have to have about 35 Diet Cokes a day for 3 years for it to become toxic. People talk about artificial sweeteners being toxic. And the people that are saying that, and even I'm not there, they haven't done a proper toxology report and a toxology study. You know, we're talking about high level education, PhD in science, that would know exactly the ins and outs of toxology and what is toxic and what's not. But you'd have to have an insane amount of artificial sweeteners for them to become harmful. But generally, I will say this. If you, let's say, for example, you're having your normal diet and you eat a protein bar that's got artificial sweeteners in it and you get a bit of a reaction in your gut and you're like, wow, I'm really bloated after that, about 2 hours later. Okay, well, listen then, because your body's talking. It's like, oh, well, artificial sweeteners are okay in moderation. It's like, well, you might be consuming something that your body don't like, so listen to it. So I'd say that too.
Number 4, are all calories the same?
No, they're not. So 1 calorie against 1 calorie, it depends on what calories consumed, if that makes sense. If you eat something fresh nutrient like strawberry against a calorie of fat which is processed, or, you know what I mean, then your body's going to deal with that completely different. And what will be different about it is your energy expenditure as well. Because sometimes, like, let's go back to the Christmas day, you know, when you've had that big meal, what do you want to do? You want to sit down. So when you put something into it that it doesn't really like, then you're not going to move as effectively, as efficiently, and you're not going to be as energetic as you would be. So again, it comes down to nutrient quality. You've got to fill your diet up with as much nutrient density as you can, at least 80% every day.
Just want to say as well, if anyone's got any further questions on what Dan's saying, or you want him to explain in more depth, make a note now, because you can always ask it at the end if we start going a bit quick through these and it all starts becoming a bit much. So just make sure you're taking notes. Okay, number 5, can carbs be the biggest thing that make you fat? Again, a lot of press around carbs are the things that are making us fat. A lot of people cut carbs out, keto diets, things like that.
No, not a believer of that. You don't need to have a low carb diet if you're functional and moving. The reason why carbs get a bad rap is because they're very abundant, you know, they're everywhere, and we can overeat them. Nobody overindulges on chicken breast. You know what I mean? You don't go back, you don't eat one chicken breast and go, oh, God damn, I need to go and eat another one right now. But if you eat a slice of pizza, you probably want another one. Yeah? So you've probably matched your calories, you know, chicken breast, small slice of pizza, and I mean a small one, but then you'd always go back for more pizza. You wouldn't necessarily go back for another chicken breast. Yeah, so that's where that comes in. You can always overeat them. Sugar as well. You know, sugar sends you on an absolute roller coaster. You're up one minute, you're down the next, you're reaching back for the biscuit tin, you go again. And they're very addictive. And the same goes for not just what you eat, it's what you drink. You know, dilute juice, squash, pop, alcohol even. The majority of alcohol comes from carbs. Wine's a bugger for that. So yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Next one. To get to a low percent of body fat, must meals generally have to be quite bland?
No. Seasoning's fine. You can do a lot with certain other ingredients and spices, herbs, spices, and season your food. You definitely don't need to eat like just a chicken salad with no flavour to it whatsoever. You can still explore other things within the diet, as long as you understand what you're putting in. That's the thing. And that, you know, we'll always go back to dosage. We'll always talk about portion control. And again, your body composition. Let's look at that. You know, like, oh, I eat an healthy diet, right? I hear this all the time. Oh, there's no wrong with my diet. I eat well, but they're coming to me for fat loss. I'm like, well, there's something wrong with your diet then. There's something missing here, and it's some level of understanding. So you're either eating the right things, but too much of, and you can't control your calories, or there's something not quite right.
Number 7, do slimming pills and fat burners work?
Short term, very short term. They make you wired to their gas, so you feel absolutely dog shit on them, probably. They suppress your appetite, so that's why you wouldn't feel generally well. So suppressing appetite will mean that you'll lose weight, because again, you're restricting calories. And because they make you absolutely wired, then you probably won't stop moving all day. So your energy balance goes up loads and your calories come down. So then you start losing weight. But what you'll find is it doesn't last for very long. So you could feel quite poorly quite quickly. You'd lose a lot of muscle mass, a lot of fluid. And you've got to think, you don't want to be losing fluid. You want to be losing fat. Yeah, and that's the thing about, you know, you can almost be a smaller version of yourself by losing weight and not doing it right, if that makes sense. So your body composition is not really changing. You don't really look any better, but you just know that you're losing weight. Like, that in itself is not enough. You need to feel well doing it, and there's no longevity to it.
Brilliant. Okay, number 8. So a lot of people will come to trainers like you that have done things like Slimming World and these kind of things that have sins and all this. And trainers like you turn around and say, that's not the best thing to be doing. But they say, I know it works. I've done it before. It works for me. What's your sort of thoughts on that?
Crack on. If it works and it gives you structure and it gives you a sense of belonging, because it's a community as well. And I think that's an important thing to make a note of, is that being part of a community is and belonging is something that is powerful. And if it gives it to that individual and they feel that it's working for them, then you keep doing it. But there will come a point where you get unstuck with it. And then when you do, then go and find another solution when you've exhausted it. But I believe with things like that it's a business that's just there to keep you stationary. And they're rewarding you based on weight loss. And I can lose 6 pounds in a day if I want to, but I don't want to, and I wouldn't want to, and I wouldn't recommend anybody did. You know, so as if you did a 24-hour fast, knowing that you're going to get on the weighing scales the next day, you can kind of wing it because you're only getting weighed. You're not getting your performance tested in the gym. You're not getting your body composition checked, as in like skin folds or fat tests. So that's why it'll keep people still, because they can cheat the system. But you can't with someone like me.
What's that doing with health and metabolism? So overeating and then massively restricting before weighing day, and then what's the longevity with that, right?
I'm not saying everybody does that, but I'm just giving an example of how you could do it and how you could beat the system. So then, you know, I do know somebody actually who has done it recently, and I've spoke to her about it, and she's got awesome results, and she feels great, and it has given her all the positive things. So she's taken it for exactly what it is, and she's made it work for her, right? You know what? I'm not even going to criticize that. You know, some people that are so strong in their beliefs, again, going back to those beliefs people, you know, be careful there. Like, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it. I don't promote it. I wouldn't do it. But I'm not telling anybody else not to if it's working for them.
I think just to add to that, one of the key things I would suggest to people listening, what I've seen time and time again with clients that have told me they've done things like that, what you touched upon there, Dan, about it being a business, the thing I've found time and time again is there's very little education. So people have come to me going, yeah, it made me lose fat. And I was like, okay, tell me what macronutrients, micronutrients, do you understand? And they've got absolutely no idea. I'm not saying that's everybody, but it's not giving them the tools, the education to actually make their own smart decisions. They can only lose fat within the kind of constraints of the business model. And I think anything like that, you should question. Education is key.
100%. You know, if I'm talking about fat loss with a client, I won't spend any longer than 6 months on that subject with a client. You know, if they want to keep coming back to me and we want to keep talking about fat loss and the goal's always fat loss, then I aren't helping them with fat loss, because I've literally given them all the tools that they need to go and operate with. And if they can't do it based on the time that we've spent, then there's something not right. And that's where my work would stop, because it's like, I'm not helping you. There's something else. There's something other that you need to explore. You thought you needed a PT, but you don't. There's something else that's going on, which is usually between the ears. And it's a psychological thing and a belief system thing from how you've grown up and how your family's eaten and everything from rituals to traditions and all the rest of it. You're not unraveling it all. So
okay, next one. Do weights make you bulky? And this is obviously particularly talking about a lot of females that are scared to lift weights.
Cake and weights will make you bulky. exceeding your calorie balance. So what happens with weight training as such, it's increasing your metabolism because you're putting muscle on. So, you know, when it's increasing metabolism, if you're not keeping a handle on your calories and you're not edging them up progressively and slowly, which you should be doing, then your metabolism can't handle what you're doing to it. So if you go from being on, let's just say for an argument's sake, you're averaging 1,500 calories a day as a female, and then you bounce it up to 2,000 calories quite quickly, and it stays there because you feel hungry all the time from the weights that you're lifting, then would you look a bit more hench? Probably. Yeah, you would. Doing it through the right methods? No, absolutely not. If you want more context to that, just have a look through my social media and you'll see some of my female transformations and you'll see how lean and tight they are. They've all lifted weights all the way through it.
Okay, brilliant. Number 10, the harder the workout intensity, the better the results you'll get.
Incorrect. No. Hard workout intensity is good for your mindset because it proves to you that you've always got another gear. You know, it proves that there's something else in the locker that you didn't realize that you had. But should you go to the wire every time you train? No, because your central nervous system would be absolutely battered. Your training sessions should feel enjoyable, hard, but doable, and not like you're reaching absolute failure every time you train. You shouldn't feel like that. You should feel like you've probably got a few more reps or sets left in you, but it felt good, and I'm looking forward to doing that again tomorrow. Obviously, if you were weight training, you wouldn't do the same muscle groups, but you know that you could get up the next day and lift again on a different group. You don't feel like your body's annihilated. If it ever does feel annihilated, you've gone too hard. The only time that I would annihilate somebody is if the competition training and we need to find out what they're made of, myself included. You know, I still compete. I compete in CrossFit now. I went back to play rugby last year as a veteran. And that's the only time I would go all in, is when you're competing.
Brilliant. Number 11, you must consume protein immediately after a workout.
Incorrect. I would say carbs, actually. Fast carbs are better, depending on the workout intensity. If you've gone to the gym and you've just had a steady walk, then no, you don't need to be putting in a significant amount of carbs. But carbohydrates will top up insulin levels and your lost glycogen in the muscle. So that's an important thing to put back in. As long as you're hitting your protein goal each day, then it doesn't really matter how it's done. However, when you have trained, the last thing that you would want to do is eat something. So consuming protein via a shake is convenient and it's ticking all the boxes. So that's why people do it after workout.
Number 12, is cardio the best form of exercise if you want fat loss results?
No. Cardio in what sense?
Well, maybe just quickly explain.
I would say walking, yeah. Because that's contributing to your daily energy expenditure. But you don't need to be running around like a lunatic every day to burn those calories. As long as you're productive and you're moving, that contributes to a large amount of expenditure. So, you know, the average 10,000 steps will burn around, 300 to 500 calories, depending on the size of you, and also depending on how those steps were done. So, for example, if you're walking on a hill like this and you're getting a good stomp and it's getting your heart rate up, then you're going to burn more calories doing it like that. But that ain't the norm. Go easy on yourself, de-stress the body, fix your nutrition, go for a steady walk, and it'll start coming off you.
Number 13, smoothie detox diets are a smart way to reset the body and lose body fat.
So I don't like that word at all, reset. Basically what you've done is you've stopped putting in things that were toxic, which you shouldn't have been doing anyway, and you've swapped it for something that's dense in nutrients, which you should be doing anyway, because that's just what we need. And you'll only lose fat because you've just reduced a massive amount of calories. So why they call that the reset, baffles me.
Number 14, your muscles will turn to fat if you stop working on them.
Incorrect. Fat is fat and muscle is muscle. They're not the same.
Number 15, I think we spoke about this a little bit, but maybe just a quick recap with this. You must not exercise on an empty stomach.
Well, what do you say?
I'm good, I'm good, baby. I'm gravy.
There you go. And to put that into context, so if you didn't eat enough the previous night, let's say, for example, you are going to train in the morning fasted, and you didn't eat enough calories that day before, and you feel quite restricted, you didn't have enough carbohydrates in your system to facilitate more activity the next day, and then you start lifting weights and doing some energetic work, it ain't going to work too well for you.
Okay, we're almost there. Again, we've maybe touched on this a little bit. You should always feel sore after a workout. I think what you're kind of saying is not necessarily, right?
You want to know you've hit it. If you don't get anything at all, then it's like, yeah, you probably didn't do enough. Like if you were to train your quads and you were to do squats, and then the next day you could do squats again, then that's probably not the right intensity that you went at. So you still got to find the right level of intensity, but not to the point where you feel absolutely broken and then you can't get your daily steps in. You don't feel like you want to get up and move, because that's counterproductive to most people's goal, which is fat loss and staying lean.
Okay, final two before we then hand it over to the members' questions. So number 17 is, having more muscle equals having more strength.
Yeah. Kind of goes hand in hand. You do get some anomalies, where you get a very light, slender person who's freaky strong. They've got really good fast twitch muscle fibers, they've got really good DNA. They're naturally just strong people, usually quite quick at running and things like that, can jump high, those sorts of people. Even the slender ones are quite strong. So, but if that slender person still gained more muscle mass, would they be stronger? Yeah. You know what I mean? So if you do put muscle on, you're going to be stronger. But putting muscle on is hard work. Like if you were to put 7 pounds of muscle mass on, you've had a really productive year, not month. It'll take a year to build that amount of muscle mass. It takes a long time to build muscle, a long, long time.
Final one. Is the vegan diet the healthiest diet?
To some people, it could be, because if they're exchanging a poor diet to a nutrient-rich diet, which obviously the vegan diet, you eliminate a lot of foods, and the only other foods that are available are nutrient-rich foods. So to some people, that might work just a treat, depending on how they train as well. For somebody like me, no, doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for my gut. I can't get enough protein. I eat too much fiber. On a diet like that, it's too restricted. I don't really like it emotionally. So it wouldn't be healthy for somebody like me. But some people, again, it's almost like jumping onto a religion. They believe that is the best diet. They believe it's the healthiest diet, but it is not.
Dan, some absolute gold, as I knew you'd be dropping today. Just before we finish and hand over to the members, if people aren't already following you and they want to find out more about what you do, and importantly, if they want to download your app, where do they need to go? What do they need to do?
So I'm on TikTok now. I'm down with the kids at Flight Coaching. I'm Dan Ramsden Flight on Instagram, and I'm Dan Ramsden on Facebook. My brand is flight coaching. I'm trying to make it more about a brand and more about the people that are affiliated to it rather than me. I don't want it just to be associated with me now. So I've been working hard on that. So it's all about flight coaching and the people that are involved in it. The app is available on both platforms. So it's available on Android and Apple. It's free to download, and there is some free content in there that you can take advantage of every week. I post something called a WOW, which is the workout of the week, and I run that within my community. And we all give it a go, and we submit our scores and we compare. And also we then challenge ourselves later down the line. So once we've done it, we record it, and then we go back and it's you against you. Have you beaten your score? Can you get better at it? And I provide a 3-weekly WOW on the app, which is free. It's free content to get, and it'll just give you an idea, and you can start communicating with the community that I have as well. There's a little section on there. You click on community, you can see who's in there, you can see who's using the app and what they're saying, and that's what I'm wanting to do. I'm wanting to help more people. There's only one of me, so I have to do it like this. You know how stubborn I was with this. But I'm here now. You know, I'm more online, and this is how it's going. So it's quite new. So please bear with me. There's not a massive amount of content on there yet. There are some courses to purchase as well, but there's going to be more coming. I'm back from holiday now, so I'm going to be starting cracking on with some more content and providing everything that I'm about: flexibility, nutrition, sports performance, building muscle, fat loss, everything to do with health and wellness will be in that app.
So you've been a guest on this podcast as well as a host many, many times. And you've answered the question, what is your definition of success? But something we've always been mindful of is as you're growing, as you're learning, that definition can change. What's your current definition of success today?
Setting new challenges and goals for yourself. Being present with your loved ones and not always thinking ahead. You know, have goals, have plans, but be present, because there's nothing like the present moment. This is the best it's going to get right now. That's my definition of success. It ain't going to get any better than this.
Ooh, so there you go. Be present. Ask yourself that question right now. Do you really live in the present moment? Are you focused on making the most of right now, taking action on the things that matter to you most? Let me know what you think of Dan's definition of success. DM me on social media or drop me an email, matthallcoach@gmail.com. A massive shout out and thanks to Dan Ramsden for being on the podcast for today's episode. And there is more from Dan Ramsden. There is indeed the additional, I think it was over 30 minutes live Q&A that Dan did where he was answering all the members' questions. Here's a little preview of that bonus conversation.
I've got 2 questions. I'll do like 7 months of full-on work, 70 hours a week, and then I'll take like a month or 2 off. And during that month or 2, I'm ill constantly all the time.
I'm a right big bugger at the minute, right? So I put like a lot of weight on.
What I'd recommend is about 14 days worth of tracking, but being brutally honest with yourself.
How do you find that motivation again? Because I'm struggling so much just to get it.
It's very hard to be motivated, to be focused on consistently eating the right foods, hitting the right amount of steps, getting your workouts in, when you are absolutely bloody exhausted with everything else.
There you go. Now, if you want access to listen to that entire conversation, totally unedited, all you have to do is, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, click the link in the show notes, start your free trial with the Success School community, and you can literally, it's uploaded already, head on over there. You can continue to listen to the rest of the conversation that we had. And even better than that, you will also be invited to all the future podcast episodes that we do so that you can watch the next episodes be recorded completely live on Zoom and then be involved with speaking to our guests and asking your personal questions to them so that you can get their expert advice on whatever maybe the challenges are that you're going through right now, or indeed just some of the information that you want to be able to gather from the people that we bring here on this podcast. As I say, click the link in the show notes. It will be completely free for you to go over there and start watching some of the other content, listening to the rest of this conversation with Dan. You can hear those questions that were asked to him and the answers that he gave. And indeed, after that 14 days, the membership is just £19 per month. That is less than a £5 a week, less than the rough estimation of what you would pay for a flipping Costa coffee a week. It's one Costa coffee a week. You can be on these Zooms. You can be going through those training videos as well. You can be part of our private WhatsApp community. And one of the biggest things that I've learned from all these guests on this podcast, and indeed all the studying that I've done, is that if you want to be more successful in your life, you've got to remain consistent in taking the relevant action. And one of the best ways to stay on track, taking consistent action, is being around the right people. That is why I believe just the community aspect alone, being in that WhatsApp group where I'm putting in voice notes most days of the week, where you can hear what everyone else is getting up to, and then indeed booking in the diary these Zoom calls so you can join us live and ask your questions. All that part of just staying around the right people will play a massive part in helping you be in the right frame of mind to stay consistent, keep taking action, and ultimately start achieving more. Click that link right now. Do not procrastinate. Take action. Join us for free. And like I say, if you want to stay beyond your 14-day free trial, it is just 19 quid per month that you can cancel at any time. So it really is no risk. Now, our next episode of this podcast, it's already here for you folks. It's already live. At the time of launching this kind of rebrand of Success School, I've already put the next episode, and it is absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm just trying to think of the way of describing it. We have got the incredible mindset coach and motivational speaker, Miss Ife Thomas. This lady is just a bundle of joy. She's so inspirational. She's so motivational. She's got incredible energy, but she also shares some real emotional truths that she's been living through as well. And for those reasons, it just really is a super powerful podcast episode. If you want to stay focused on moving forward with this inspiration, keep the momentum going, head on right now to that next episode and start listening to Ife Thomas. That's available right now. Guys, thank you as always. I appreciate the support. If you think this has been a valuable episode, please do help me spread the word of what we're doing here at Success School. If you could take a screenshot and maybe tag it in your story, telling people to download, tag me at Matt Hall Official on Instagram, stick it on Twitter, stick it on Facebook, anywhere that you'd be willing to share it would be massively appreciated. Or indeed, just send it on WhatsApp to a friend that you think would benefit from hearing what we spoke about in this episode. That would be greatly appreciated. Like I say, my mission with Success School is to help as many people as possible. It's really difficult to do it as one person on his own, so it would really be much appreciated if you could help me to be able to help other people start to help themselves. Lots of love. Thank you for being here. And do not forget the quote famous thought leader Jim Rohn said. He said that traditional education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. I'll see you next time.